This is Resolute and the Resolute Leadership Podcast. I'm Vince Miller, your founder and host, and today we're in a series on leadership, looking specifically at the topic, conviction to lead. Welcome to the program. If this is in fact your very first time tuning in, well, thank you for joining us. Our mission at Resolute is to disciple and develop men to lead. So if you're looking for content for your men's group or even your men's ministry, then you need to go to our website today at beresolute.org. But now, let's dive in. Well, today I'm joined by one of my very good friends, Ken Larson, president of Slumberland Furniture. Been in existence for 50 years this year, and he's an incredible leader, an incredible man of God. Ken, welcome to the show again.
Great to be here, Vince. Wow, what a treat.
So I got to tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed your business lunch. We've been discussing this book by Albert Mohler entitled The Conviction to Lead. We're just in chapter 2, but the conversations have been absolutely amazing. I think you would probably agree with that, right?
Absolutely. They have energized me, and I've been so encouraged with comments that have come back. I think it's gotten people to a point where they're willing to think about areas that are hard and tough, and they're finding enjoyment in it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know I left the last business lunch meeting amazed by how many people were sitting in the room, first off, and the guests that we had in the room, which were amazing. But also, I got to say, the topic was emotional to me.
Wow.
We were talking about chapter 2, and of course, Mohler is leading into helping us to understand what true conviction looks like. And he's discussing really the topic of conviction and if people in our world today, specifically Christians or leaders, truly have deeply held convictions. And I remember sitting in that meeting wondering that about myself. Am I a convictional leader? Just give us some thoughts on that as you read that chapter, Ken. As you read that, were you stirred emotionally by this chapter?
Oh, absolutely. It forced me to go back and ask some tough questions. And we talked about it briefly, but the issue of do I really have the conviction to live the convictional way that I should? And more importantly, do I have the conviction to die if appropriate?
Okay. So I love that statement because I remember that was a point in this lunch when I really think I started to understand maybe where there's a difference between maybe the casual passion that a person has and true, deeply held convictions. Because you teed up the idea that, look, a conviction is something that we're actually willing to die for. But you added to that, we're willing to live for it just the same. Now, do you think that the average leader out there today has true conviction in their life or just maybe kind of scattered passions that live from moment to moment? Is there a difference between those things or not?
Well, I think there probably is. Passion is one thing. We put a lot of things into that category. And I think it would be fair to say that we say things like, I love football, I love golf, I love this and I love that, or my passion is, and we think of activities too many times more than convictions, how we're going to live.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I know that you and I have discussed some of these ideas before, but there's something about a passion or a conviction, and he says in the book, deeply held. Like, I'm talking about, it's like in your blood. You bleed this way when someone cuts you, right?
Absolutely.
And I left that meeting, Ken, thinking to myself, do I have deeply held convictions? Because, of course, you and I both know that, I wrote this book on convictions, and I wonder if most Christians really would be willing to die for the things that they believe about God. And the reason that I question it is because I have seen very few examples, even in the Bible, of people that are willing to do those things, right?
I agree, totally. In fact, a phrase that is haunting to me is that I believe most people want to be judged by their intentions, not their actions. And I think we end up wanting to believe that we have convictions that are deeply held. The truth is, I know very few leaders that actually lead by having convictions that others are able to see and understand.
Okay, so this raises the question then for me about this whole idea of really believing in our heart about the things that are based in God's truth. Because, I'm a guy who's preached at a number of different churches, as you know, and I've led ministry for over 25 years, and I think people are inspired to death in our churches today. Now, this isn't a dig on pastors. It's not a dig on individuals, but I often look to people from other faiths, for example, and see their convictions as much stronger than I see in some Christians today. Now, I wish more Christians not only got inspired on a Sunday morning, but left a Sunday morning with not only a conviction, but a deeply held conviction to actually make changes in their life. But I wonder if fear and comfort aren't obstacles there, Ken.
I agree, absolutely. The fear of how we're going to be perceived, the fear of being rejected, the fear of having someone that you care about disagree with what you're doing, what you stand for, or even what you say. Those fears are real, and they control us far more than most people want to admit.
Yeah, and I know that's true for me, because I remember you asking in this last time if we felt like we lived that way, and I think I shared in the group that I'm not sure that I have courage to stand up for everything that I believe in. Now, I got to tell you though, Ken, the older I've gotten, the more courage I've gotten. Okay?
I feel the same way.
You do? Okay.
I do, and I know that, dial it back for me 20 years ago, I'm not the same person when it comes to that than I am today. And it's too bad. I don't know why. I think I have some ideas. I think we grow and mature and start to understand that the most important things are ones that we probably need to lay on the line.
Okay, I love that. That helps me to feel normal, Ken, by the way, is the fact that you said that. But it gives me hope, too, to say that I can grow in my convictions, right? Like, I may be inspired on a Sunday morning about something, and I can walk away and not live with conviction, right? I call that, basically, we love to be convicted, but don't live with conviction. Like, I think our pews are full, our churches are full of people who love to be convicted. You called it intention a little while ago. We think that the road of life is paved with good intentions, but it isn't, right? It's paved by people that are willing to lead the way. I've been reading the Old Testament. I know you have as well.
That's right.
And I got to tell you, as I have read through guys like Jeremiah, Joel, yes. Hosea is a great example. Here's this guy that God told to go sleep with adulteresses, right?
How do you do that?
I don't. Well, I know some people actually do that in their life. So, but God told him to go do it, which is such the strangest thing ever. Yeah. And then God uses his wife and his adulterous children to teach him the ways of a nation and about spiritual adultery. That is amazing that he did that. Or the story of Daniel. I mean, Daniel's story rocks my world, right? Exactly. Here's this guy with his 3 buds, and he chooses under multiple kings, right?
Absolutely.
To stand up for his faith. Like, Ken, would you do that?
All of us, including me, would like to say, yes, I have serious doubts about me. Let's say that way.
Yeah, and see, and I question that too, because it would cost me my life, right? There's the definition, I think, Ken. It's the difference between something that's just a nicely held belief or an intention or a nice feeling of inspiration or guilt where we kind of privately shame ourselves. And then there's conviction. We would be willing to die for it. Right. We would stand up and endure persecution. You know, there's been a few times in my life I've watched pastors from the platform stand really strong on a personal conviction around God's truth. And I got to tell you, Ken, I have literally felt in the audience a thick air, so thick you could cut it, right?
Wow, yeah.
And I would say, wow, that was bold and courageous, but also very divisive, right? Mm-hmm. But you said last time in our business lunch that it can also be incredibly inspiring, right?
Absolutely.
Have you seen those inspirational moments before?
I have. And just to come alongside with what you're saying, I think we have to admit that the price tag for living with convictions is high. And the truth is, too many people, and at times me, were unwilling to pay the price.
Yeah.
And it's a sobering question, Vince, and it's easy to say yes to. Yes, I would. Yes, I will. All of that. But when the moment of truth comes is when we really understand where that conviction really lies.
Mm-hmm. And what is the object of that conviction? Is it our own fears? Is it our reputation? Is it our money? You know, you and I talked just a little while ago about people and their real convictions in life, and we discussed a little bit kind of how far our convictions will really take us. And one of the illustrations that we were sharing is the fact that, you know, sometimes we have to stand up for ourselves in the marketplace, right? Exactly. Sometimes at work. And sometimes we will only go as far as the money will take us, right?
That's right.
That we will stay in a job and compromise our personal convictions because of money and security and hope for a retirement plan or a better tomorrow financially or whatever it might be. And sometimes that is just evidence that we are not really men and women that would stand up for the things that we really believe in. And unfortunately, I'm going to confess that too. There have been times that I have backed down from the truth because I'm trying to wrestle to the ground either a relationship or I'm ashamed of a fear that I have. But I love what Albert Mohler does in this book. He pushes us to understand that it's okay to live past that. I mean, this guy really, he didn't risk his life at this seminary that he was trying to change, right?
No.
He's just risking his reputation a little bit and maybe favor with men.
Exactly.
But I got to tell you, if we as Christian men, Ken, could stand up for the things that we really believed in, I wonder if this country would be different.
Of course it would. You know, just to come alongside with what you've been saying, the most recent statistic that I have seen says that more than 65% of Americans do not like what they do for a living.
Wow.
Now, that's a shame because we spend more time at work than any other activity, single activity, maybe other than sleeping. And I think it's centered around what you're describing. We get trapped. We get trapped by positional titles. We get trapped by money, by retirement, all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. But it isn't worth it.
Right.
The price tag, again, is too high because we end up dissatisfied.
Yeah, because there's so much more to live for and die for, right?
Exactly.
But we only see that sometimes through kind of the difficulty and through kind of the personal reflection, right?
Exactly.
And so I just want to close with this today, Ken. I think people out there listening today, I think what I would encourage you to do is exactly what Peter did in the New Testament. Is we got to push through our fears, right? And these are deeply held fears that we have. We've got to get in touch with them. We've got to say to ourselves, I'm scared of the water. The water's deep. I'm scared of the storm. The storm is heavy. I'm scared of the waves. The waves are big. But we have to remember that we've got a great God on the other side. And He is the only one that we live for, and He is the only one that we die for. We've got to stop trying to die for our own beliefs and our own visions. We've got to start living for God and being willing to die for Him. And I believe that if Christian men, especially across this country, would stand up for the things that are biblically based and live with conviction rather than just be convicted itself, our world would change. Our churches would change, our pastors would change, our boards would change, the workplace would change, our children would change, our home would change, our families would be different. Ken, we could change the world.
Amen.
Just with a few men living differently. Ken, thank you so much again for being with us.
Great to be here. Thank you, Vince.
And guys, that's the show. Thanks for listening. As we close, I want to remind you that we have great content for your men's groups, excellent small group videos and participant handbooks that will empower the men of your church to lead and equip them to build the men around them. Check it all out at beresolute.org. And as we close, please know that I hope you enjoyed this podcast. But the time that we spent together is worthless unless you choose to act on it. So do something today. Live with some more conviction, but getting off the bench and into the game. And I'll see you right back here next time on another edition of the Resolute Podcast.